Slaanesh doesn't assault fortresses. He doesn't need to. He simply offers to make them more beautiful, more perfect, more worthy of the God Emperor's gaze. And buried in Archive Canthus 772 is the only documented case of a sister who heard that offer, understood exactly what it was, and survived by doing something that should have destroyed her faith entirely. She agreed with him.
Sister-Superior Clementia of the Order of the Argent Shroud was the embodiment of what the Adepta Sororitas claimed to be. 23 years of perfect service, 17 heretics killed in personal combat, 4 war zone deployments without a single casualty. Her sisters called her the Standard, the metric by which all others were measured. But there was something her sisters didn't know, something only her confessor knew. Sister Clementia hated herself, not the healthy, proper humility the ecclesiarchy encouraged. This was colder, more precise. Every night she catalogued her failures in a ledger hidden beneath her bunk. 273 pages of microscopic imperfections. A prayer spoken 1 second too slowly. A bolter burst that took 11 shots instead of 10. Her confessor told her this was unhealthy, that the Emperor did not demand perfection from mortals. Clementia's response, then why does he deserve anything less than our attempt to achieve it? The mission to Calistrade's folly should have been routine. Minor agri-planet, population 3 million, suspected pleasure cult in the capital city. Standard protocol, 1 squad, eliminate leadership, sterilize with flame. Clementia's squad deployed at dawn. The city was empty, not abandoned, empty. 700,000 people simply gone. No bodies, no struggle, no evacuation. The streets were clean. The markets still had fresh food, as if the population had vanished mid-transaction. But something was wrong. The air smelled too good. Not pleasant, artificially perfect, like a corpse perfumed with roses to hide the rot. Sister Dominica noticed it first. Sister Superior, the light is wrong. The sun was at zenith, but the shadows fell at the wrong angle, 5 degrees off, the kind of detail you only notice if you're trained to observe everything. Clementia's auspex showed nothing, no warp anomalies, no psychic signatures, environmental normalcy. But her instinct screamed otherwise. Weapons hot, eyes on your sisters. If anyone begins acting strangely, report immediately. They advanced to the city center. The silence was absolute, not peaceful, absolute. No birds, no wind, only their footsteps echoing wrong, as if the city itself were listening. Then they found the cathedral. The Cathedral of the Emperor Ascendant, exactly where the briefing pics showed it, but it had been improved. Same architecture, same stonework, but every surface was more detailed, more elegant. The carved oculuses were more perfect, the stained glass more vibrant. Even the cracks in the stone had been filled, smoothed over. The cathedral had been renovated by something that understood aesthetics better than any human architect could. The doors stood open, waiting. Clementia should have withdrawn, called for orbital bombardment, exterminatus. But she looked at her 10 faithful sisters and calculated the risk. Withdrawing without confirming the threat would be failing in her duty, and failure was not acceptable. "We enter," she said. "The Emperor protects." Her sisters responded in unison, "The Emperor protects." Inside, the cathedral was perfect. Every pew aligned with mathematical precision. Every candle burned at exactly the same height. The altar polished to a mirror shine. Even the dust motes floated in deliberate patterns, catching light in ways that drew the eye. At the altar, kneeling in prayer, was a woman in ecclesiarchy robes. She did not turn as they entered, simply continued her prayer, her voice soft and melodious. "And we thank you, God Emperor, for the gift of perfection, for showing us that we need not suffer in ugliness." Sister Dominica raised her bolter. "Heretic, you will cease." "Sister Dominica," I said, "lower your weapon." "Sister Superior, she is clearly—" I said, "Lower your weapon. That is an order."
Dominica obeyed, confusion in her eyes. But Clementia had noticed something. The woman's prayer was in perfect High Gothic, not the crude approximation most preachers used, but actual liturgical language with every inflection correct. Her voice had a quality that should not exist in human vocal cords, which meant the woman was not the threat. She was the lure. Clementia took 3 steps forward. "Where are the people of this city?" The woman stopped praying, stood, turned, smiled. Her face was ordinary, but her eyes reflected light in colors that did not exist. "They are here, all around you. Can you not feel them?" Then Clementia felt it, a pressure, not physical, not psychic, as if the empty space was filled with invisible presences, all watching, all waiting. "Show yourself," Clementia said, addressing not the woman, but the presence around her. "No more games. Face us directly." The woman's smile widened. "As you wish, Sister Superior Clementia. He has been waiting for you to ask." A decision born of perfect faith that would lead her not to glorious martyrdom, but to a heresy far more profound. The cathedral changed, not violently. It simply became what it had always been trying to become. Stone walls melted into silk curtains, moving without wind. Candles became perfume that glowed with inner light. Pews transformed into sculptures of crystallized ecstasy, frozen moments of transcendent pleasure captured in glass. The woman was no longer a woman. She was a daemonate. 3 meters tall, body a perfect synthesis of horror and beauty, claws gleaming like polished silver, face smiling with too many teeth. But she did not attack. Sister Dominica opened fire immediately. Bolter rounds struck center mass. They did nothing. The shells passed through her body like smoke, transforming mid-flight into rose petals that drifted gently to the ground. "Your weapons are crude. Violence is so inelegant." Clementia raised her hand. Her squad ceased fire. "Explain," she said simply.
The daemonette tilted her head, genuinely surprised. You do not scream prayers? You do not charge with righteous fury? How refreshing. Very well. This city has been perfected. Its people have been perfected. They are no longer bound by limitations of flesh or the crude tyranny of imperial doctrine. They have been given the gift my master offers, the ability to exist in their most perfect state. They are dead, Clementia said. No, they are beyond death, beyond suffering, beyond the grinding horror of your Imperium's existence. The daemonette gestured. The cathedral filled with images, millions of faces, each one smiling in transcendent bliss. They live in pure sensation now. Perfect sensation, endless joy without pain, endless meaning without burden. They have been freed. Freed into damnation, Sister Dominica spat. Is it damnation if they chose it willingly? Every soul made a choice. Remain in gray lives, working until death for a corpse on a throne, or become perfect. And now, Sister-Superior Clementia, the choice is offered to you.
Clementia felt the full weight of the presence then. Not the demon, the presence behind the demon. Slaanesh himself focused entirely on this moment, on this cathedral, on her. The offer came not as words, but as vision. She saw herself as she could be, not corrupted, not mutated, simply perfect. Every tactical error corrected, every moment of doubt erased, every prayer spoken with flawless precision, every kill executed with absolute efficiency. The perfect sister of battle, the perfect servant of the Emperor. All she had to do was accept that perfection was possible, that the Emperor would want his servants to be the best they could be, that her endless self-criticism, her obsessive cataloging of failures, her desperate pursuit of worthiness, all of it was doctrinally sound. Slaanesh was not offering corruption. He was offering the completion of what the Imperium had started. She opened her mouth to speak. You are correct. The demon blinked. Silence filled the cathedral. Even the invisible presences seemed to stop. Sister-Superior? Dominica's voice was barely a whisper. You are correct that the Imperium demands perfection. You are correct that I have spent my life pursuing it. You are correct that I have failed every day, every hour, every breath. The demonette smiled. Then you will accept? No! Understand what happened in that cathedral. Not the sanitized version. The ecclesiarchy would tell you what actually happened. Sister-Superior Clementia, the model sister of battle, looked at Slaanesh's offer, the offer to become perfect, and her first thought was, why shouldn't I accept this? Not because she was weak, not because her faith wavered, but because the offer was objectively correct. The Imperium did demand perfection. The Emperor did deserve servants without flaw. Her self-criticism, her obsessive cataloging of failures, her desperate pursuit of worthiness, all of it was doctrinally sound. Slaanesh was offering the completion of what the Imperium had started. And she realized this, accepted this, which was the moment she made the choice that would either save or damn her. The demon waited for her acceptance. Her sisters waited for her resistance. But what Clementia said next would change everything.
The presence, Slaanesh himself, manifested then, not fully, not physically, but enough. The cathedral walls became a kaleidoscope of sensation. Every possible pleasure, every possible pain layered over each other until reality began to fray. A voice spoke, not to her ears, to her soul. You claim to embrace brokenness, but I feel your pride, your self-righteousness. You are proud of your humility, proud of your suffering. You have simply inverted the trap, clever sister. You seek perfection in imperfection. You still believe you are special, that your method of suffering makes you more worthy, and that pride, that tiny seed of ego, is all I need. The words hit like physical blows, because they were true. Beneath her philosophy of embraced failure, beneath her acceptance of inadequacy, there was a tiny core of satisfaction, pride in being humble, pride in understanding what others did not, pride in being the one sister who had figured out the truth. And Slaanesh was right. That pride was all he needed. The demon advanced. You are no different from the others. You will fall. Perhaps not today, but eventually. The moment you feel satisfaction in your own brokenness, you become mine. And I am patient, endlessly patient. Clementia felt reality tilting, felt herself beginning to slip. The demon was right. She was proud. She did feel special, and that meant... Sister-Superior?
No, Clementia repeated. I will not accept. Not because you are wrong about what I want, but because you are wrong about what perfection is. She took a step forward. The demonette's expression shifted from confidence to curiosity. You offer me the perfection of completion, the end of struggle, the achievement of the ideal, but that is not perfection. That is death. Perfection is not a state to be achieved. It is a direction to be pursued. Forever, without end, without completion, without rest. Another step. Her voice grew stronger. I am not perfect. I will never be perfect. And that is exactly what makes me worthy. The Emperor does not need servants who have achieved perfection. He needs servants who understand perfection is impossible and choose to pursue it anyway. Not because we will succeed, but because the pursuit itself is the only thing that gives meaning to our suffering. The cathedral began to shake, not physically, conceptually, reality itself trying to process her words. You misunderstand the nature of faith. Faith is not the belief that we will succeed. It is the choice to serve even when we know we will fail. You offer completion, but completion is surrender. I reject it, not because I am strong enough to resist, but because I am broken enough to understand that being broken is the entire point. The demonette's face twisted. "You speak heresy. The ecclesiarchy lies. They tell us we can be pure, that we can be worthy, that faith makes us strong enough to resist corruption. But that is comfortable falsehood. The truth is simpler and far more terrible. We are all already corrupted. Every human is flawed, every servant broken, and the only thing separating the faithful from the damned is not strength. It is the choice to serve anyway." She removed her helmet. Her face was streaked with tears, but her eyes were utterly clear. "I hate myself. I catalog my failures every night. I know with absolute certainty that I am not worthy of the Emperor's grace, and that is why I will never fall to you, because you can only corrupt those who believe they deserve better, those who think they can become worthy. I already know I cannot. I am broken. I am flawed. I am insufficient." She smiled then, not happily, the smile of someone who had stared into the abyss and found nothing but the reflection of their own inadequacy. "And that inadequacy is my armor. You cannot tempt me with perfection, Dark Prince. I have already accepted I will never achieve it. You cannot offer me what I know I do not deserve. You cannot correct someone who has already embraced their own damnation."
The voice was quiet. Sister Dominica, her second, her most trusted warrior. Dominica had not moved, had not raised her weapon. She simply stood there, watching. "Sister-Superior," Dominica repeated. "Permission to speak freely." Clementia managed to nod. "You are broken," Dominica said simply. "You catalog your failures. You hate yourself. You believe you are unworthy." She paused. "And you are correct. You are all of those things." The demon smiled, thinking corruption was spreading. "But so am I," continued Dominica. "So is every sister in this squad. So is every human who has ever served the Emperor. We are all broken. We are all unworthy. You are not special in your inadequacy, Sister-Superior. You are just honest about it." Clementia stared at her sister. "You think you discovered some great truth? You think you alone understand that perfection is impossible? Every sister knows this. Every guardsman knows this. Every human who serves knows in their heart that they will fail. The only difference is that most of us are not arrogant enough to think our understanding of failure makes us unique." The demon's smile vanished. "We do not serve because we are worthy. We serve because someone must. We do not fight because we will win. We fight because the alternative is surrender. You are not special for understanding this, Sister-Superior. You are just one of us." The trap collapsed because Clementia realized the truth. She had been proud of her humility, but Dominica had shown her something deeper. Her brokenness was not armor, not a shield, not a clever trick. It was simply the default state of being human. And if everyone was broken, then being broken could not be a source of pride. The demon's perfect trap had collapsed, but in doing so,
It had revealed Clementia's soul to Slaanesh completely, and the true test was only just beginning. Clementia looked at the demon, at the presence of Slaanesh wrapped around the cathedral. "You are correct," she said. "I am proud, I am flawed, I am insufficient, and I am not special. I am simply a broken tool in the hand of a god who uses broken tools because they are the only kind that exist." She raised her bolter. "And a broken tool can still function. It simply requires more maintenance." She fired. The bolt round passed through the demon's chest. It did not kill her. Demons do not die from such wounds. But the demon staggered, not from physical impact, but from something else, from the conceptual weight of what Clementia had just done. Because Clementia had not fired in rage, had not fired in faith, had not fired in righteous fury or desperate defiance. She had fired because it was the next item on the tactical checklist. Step 1, identify corruption. Step 2, eliminate corruption. Step 3, file report. She had turned resistance to chaos into bureaucracy. The presence of Slaanesh recoiled, not in pain, in disgust. "You," the voice was no longer seductive, it was revolted. "You reduce the great game to mundane process?" "Yes," Clementia said, fired again. "Because that is all it is. You are not special. You are simply another threat to be catalogued and eliminated. Another item on the list of failures to be managed." She fired a third time. "I do not need to be worthy to kill you. I simply need to be competent enough, and adequacy is far easier to achieve than perfection." The cathedral began to collapse, not physically, conceptually. The perfect walls cracked, the beautiful ceiling shattered. The presence of Slaanesh retreated, not because it was defeated, but because there was nothing left to corrupt. Clementia had made herself boring. And in a universe of infinite sensation, boredom is the only true death.
The demonic presence fled. The cathedral returned to normal stone and wood. The population of Calistrad's Holly did not return. They were gone, absorbed into Slaanesh's realm, but the corruption had been halted. Clementia's squad stood in the ruins. Sister Dominica approached her commander. "Did you mean what you said about accepting that you will fail?" Clementia looked at her bolter, at her sisters, at the aquila on her breastplate. "Yes, I will fail. We will all fail. The Imperium will fall eventually. Humanity will be consumed by the darkness. Every choice we make will be inadequate. Every victory temporary. Every act of faith insufficient. But insufficient is not the same as useless. A broken tool can still be wielded. A failed servant can still serve. The Emperor does not need perfect soldiers. He needs soldiers who understand they are imperfect and choose to fight anyway." He looked at Dominica. "I am broken, but I am broken in the Emperor's service, and that is enough. Not because I am strong, but because strength is not required, only willingness." What Clementia did not know was that her words had been heard, not just by her squad, not just by Slaanesh, but by something else, the Emperor himself.
The emperor does not speak, cannot speak, sits on the golden throne, functionally dead, sustaining the Astronomicon and nothing more. This is doctrine, this is truth. But in that moment, in that ruined cathedral, something happened that the Inquisition would spend decades trying to explain. Every sister in Clementia's squad felt it simultaneously. A warmth, not physical, not psychic, something deeper. And with that warmth came a single concept pressed directly into their souls: sufficient. The emperor had heard a broken servant acknowledge her inadequacy and deem it irrelevant to her duty, and he had confirmed, yes, that is sufficient. Sister Dominica would later testify that in that moment she understood the truth of faith for the first time. Not faith as hope, not faith as strength, but faith as simple, stubborn continuance in the face of guaranteed failure. But there was a cost. Because Clementia's rejection of Slaanesh had worked through a mechanism the ecclesiarchy could not accept. She had achieved victory not through faith in the emperor's glory, but through acceptance of her own inadequacy. She had resisted corruption not by being pure, but by acknowledging she was already impure and choosing to serve anyway. Theologically, this was catastrophic. If the path to resisting chaos was to abandon the pursuit of worthiness, to accept that humanity was fundamentally broken and that service did not require redemption, then what was the point of the ecclesiarchy, the endless rituals of purity, the doctrine that faith made you strong? Clementia had proven that faith did not make you strong. It made you willing to be weak in the emperor's name. And that willingness was far more powerful than any strength. The Inquisition arrived 3 days later. They found Clementia and her squad guarding the ruins, found evidence of demonic manifestation, found no corruption. And they found Clementia's ledger, 273 pages of catalogued failures. Inquisitor Vasculen read every page, then burned the book, then looked at Clementia with something that might have been respect or might have been fear. "What you did should not have worked," she replied. "It worked because it was true. Truth is not always doctrine, and doctrine is what keeps the Imperium functional. If every servant decided their brokenness was acceptable, that adequacy was enough, the entire structure would collapse. The masses need to believe they can be pure. They need to believe faith makes them strong. They need the lie."
Especially then, because the alternative is worse. If humanity accepted its inadequacy, truly accepted it, most would despair, most would give up. You are an exception, Sister Superior. You have the mental fortitude to embrace brokenness and still function. Most do not. The lie of purity gives them hope. False hope, perhaps, but hope nonetheless. Clementia said nothing. "I will not execute you. What you did saved this world. But I cannot allow your method to spread. It is too dangerous. Not because it doesn't work, but because it would destroy the Imperium from within faster than chaos ever could. The Inquisition's decision was elegant in its cruelty. Clementia would live, would continue her service, but she would be transferred to the Order of the Bloody Rose and given a new name, Sister Penitent Secundus. Her identity erased, her method classified obsidian black. No record would exist of what she had done. More than that, she would be assigned to suicide missions continuously, because a sister who believed she was already broken, already failed, already inadequate, could not be broken by trauma, could not be failed by defeat, could not be made inadequate by loss. She had become the perfect tool for the Inquisition's most desperate operations, a soldier who expected nothing, demanded nothing, and could not be discouraged by any horror. Over 7 years, Sister Penitent Secundus would be deployed 43 times. Chaos incursions, gene stealer infestations, demonic manifestations. Every deployment rated as expected total casualty. Every deployment she survived. Not because she was lucky, not because the Emperor protected her, but because she approached every mission with the same philosophy. I will probably fail. I will probably die. That is acceptable. I will do my duty anyway. And that mindset made her functionally unkillable. Chaos cannot corrupt someone who expects to fail, cannot tempt someone who demands nothing, cannot break someone who has already accepted they are broken. But there was one final twist. On the 44th deployment, Sister Penitent Secundus encountered another Slaaneshi manifestation, a keeper of secrets, ancient and powerful. It recognized her immediately. You, the broken one, the one who made our prince withdraw in disgust. Yes, she said calmly, raised her bolter. You cannot defeat me. I am superior in every way, faster, stronger, more experienced. I know. I will probably fail to kill you. I will probably die in the attempt. That changes nothing. She fired. The demon, in its arrogance, allowed the bolt to strike, expected it to be meaningless. The bolt detonated. The demon did not die. Greater demons do not die easily. But it staggered, because the bolt had been inscribed with a single word carved by Clementia's own hand. Adequate. Not holy, not blessed, not purified by ritual, just adequate, sufficient for the task, good enough. And that word, carried into the demon's essence, was more damaging than any prayer could have been, because it contained no pride, no faith in victory, no belief in righteousness, just simple, mechanical acceptance that the task would be attempted regardless of outcome. The demon fled, not defeated, not destroyed, but revolted by the encounter, by the sheer mundane functionality of the attack.
Sister Penitent Secundus served for 11 years after Calistrade's folly. She died during the defense of Mordian Prime against a Black Legion incursion. She took a chain sword to the throat while holding a breach point.
Her last words, according to witnesses, expected outcome, acceptable losses. The official record lists her as Battle Sister Tertius, Order of the Bloody Rose, killed in action during the Second Mordian defense. No commendation, no martyrdom, no recognition. A convenient, sterile lie that erases the most dangerous truth the Imperium ever discovered about chaos. Because the ecclesiarchy was correct to fear her method. If the masses knew, if they truly understood, that resistance to chaos did not require purity or strength or worthiness, but merely the acceptance of inadequacy and the choice to serve anyway, the entire theological structure of the Imperium would collapse. The Imperial Creed demands that the faithful believe they can be pure, that their prayers matter, that their devotion makes them strong. These are necessary lies, comfortable falsehoods that give hope in a hopeless galaxy. But they are also the very mechanism by which chaos corrupts, because if you believe you can be pure, then corruption becomes a failure of faith. If you believe you can be worthy, then unworthiness becomes intolerable. And that intolerance, that desperate need to prove yourself, is the crack through which daemons enter. Clementia discovered the paradox at the heart of imperial theology. The same faith that protects you from despair makes you vulnerable to corruption. And the only true resistance to chaos is to abandon the pursuit of worthiness entirely, to accept that you are broken, that you will fail, that you are inadequate, and to serve anyway, not because you will succeed, but because the alternative is to surrender. The Inquisition classified this discovery as theological heresy, not because it was false, but because it was true in a way that would destroy the Imperium. Because an empire built on faith cannot acknowledge that faith is a liability, cannot admit that the only true resistance to chaos is to abandon the very hope that keeps humanity fighting, cannot teach its soldiers that the path to victory is to embrace defeat. So they erased Sister Clementia from history, burned her ledger, classified her testimony, and continued teaching the lie that faith makes you strong, knowing full well that this same lie would lead millions into corruption. Because some truths are too dangerous to speak, some victories too Pyrrhic to celebrate, some heroes too subversive to honor. The lesson is written in the ledger of the lost. Not every hero carries a bolter with pride. Sometimes the greatest act of defiance is to carry it with the full knowledge that you are not worthy of holding it. To fight not because you believe you will win, but because you have accepted you will lose and chosen to fight anyway. To starve at God not through strength, but through the simple, stubborn refusal to demand anything from yourself or the universe. Sister Clementia saved her soul by accepting she did not deserve to keep it. She defeated Slaanesh by agreeing with him that she was inadequate, and then serving anyway. The administratum, in their infinite wisdom, never formally recognized her transfer to the Order of the Bloody Rose. The paperwork was lost.